So the today's lecture is on ethics of care versus ethics of justice. Now, ethics of justice is something which has been of concern to the ethics as such, and morality more so, has been of concern to philosophers since the time of Plato and Aristotle. And it is a central subject which is of concern to most philosophers, be it men or women. Now, as far as women are concerned, feminist philosophy saw its rise in the 1970s. Before that, there was philosophy, but even people like Simone Beauvoir would not want to consider themselves to be philosophers. So, the feminist philosophy has lately started in the 70s and has come into academia from that particular time. Now, as far as ethics of care, ethics of justice is concerned, um, the first is the deontology of Kant. Now, the Kantian perspective, and the second is Jeremy Bentham's utilitarianism and contractualism. These three thoughts, which have been propounded by Kant, Jeremy Bentham, and social contractualists like Hobbes, Locke, Rousseau, and Rawls, have been, they have been talking about the fact that there should be a universalistic model, and there is no difference between morality. The morals which have been attributed to women are different from that of men, and they have to things like spirituality, care, the softer side of things are given to women, and men are given the tougher portions like mind, reason, etc. So women are degraded to a certain level. So now, um, yeah so as far as deontology is concerned, Kantian perspective, it firstly, they claim that it proceeds from absolutist and universalistic principles which are unduly prioritized over consideration of material context, informing embodied experiences, particularity, and relationship. Second, they claim that it is inaccurately separates capacities from rationalities, from capacities to emotion. So emotion and rationality are something which have been separated, which I'll argue against. What I'm basically arguing is, I am not totally against these kind of principles. I am going to talk about Butler's principles and Alison Jagger's principles of androgyny. Because as far as wars, etc., are concerned, um, you can't say that women are always ethics of care and men are always ethics of justice. Why? Because women, we have had people like Indira Gandhi in India who waged a war. You have the EU president right now, who are propounding war. So how do you kind of say that women are only ethics of care? But the fact is, because of maternity, and as far as like having kids, etc., is concerned, they have certain values, and these values should be valued. These values need to be valued because we need to have a world which is peaceful, which is green, which is where care is understood. So it is not just that men are of mind, justice, and rationality. Women equally have the potential of all these things and more than that, because of the fact that because of the motherhood aspect. And so yeah now as far as utilitarianism is concerned, J.S. Mill and Harriet Taylor Mill argued for utilitarianism and against the subjection of women. And then moral contractualism. Some feminist ethicists argue for contractualist ethics, that is a view that moral norms derive the normative force from idea of contract or mutual agreement. So mutual agreement is something which is like understood. So contract is generally, it's a contract. I mean, I would like consider the fact that men, for example, are the ones who form the contract. Women are not included. So Rawls has been criticized for this particular aspect, that he has not included women in that veil of ignorance. So that has to be included. Now, let's look at the feminist psychoanalyst, and the fact that feminist psychoanalysts like Helena Sixu, Luke Rigere, and Julia Kristeva have been extremely critical of the fact that women's relation, what negative value has been attributed to women's relation to language. That is, they talk of how women got incorporated into symbolic order, where binaries are constructed. One term example, man, mind, reason is given a positive value. Man, mind, reason is given a positive value, though through being positioned at primary in relation to an opposite term which is coded women, body, passion. So, and of sexism implicit in the elevation of phallus to the place of transcendental signifier. Such a system is referred to as phallocentric, and French feminist strategies of writing seek to disrupt the symbolic order. In line with this critique, Helena Sixu, in an article Castration or Decapitation, aims a blow at the phallogocentric culture, where it hurts the most, and attacks it for marking women as the other, as different, as negativity. She says no to the fathers, reminding them cheekily of the very thing they have lost to fear, the threat of castration posed by the female body. She questions the repression of feminine culture and provocatively questions masculine language. Women text is a return of repressed feminine, that with its energetic, joyful, and transgressive flying in language and making it fly, dislocates repressive structure of phallologocentric. Luke Rigere shares with Sixu as the promise of femininity in the materiality of writing, its performative capability. In contrast to Lacanian symbol of phallus, she used the symbol of morphology of women. Irigere takes as her point of departure an indictment of psychoanalysis for its almost total disregard of female subject, and therefore she speaks of relationship of women to women by opening a space in which women speak female and speak to each other without the interference of men. So this group of feminists are the ones who are the lesbian feminists, and it was that time in the 70s when the lesbian feminists came into picture. And they spoke about women speaking to women. Why should men be included? That's like an amazing thing. Now, many theorists theorize about putatively unitary, primary, culturally universal type of activity associated with women, generally an activity conceived as domestic and located in family. One of the most prominent among them is Nancy Chodorow, set herself to explain the internal psychological dynamics which have led women willingly to reproduce social division associated with female inferiority. She sets out to describe the difference between men and women as a result of female mothering, which produces women whose deep sense of self is relational and men whose deep sense of self which is not. So women are relational to the children while men are not. So, Catherine McKinnon, for example, sets out to explain that oppression of women occurs through sexual subordination. Now, this is basically an essentialist description of woman, and this is going to be critiqued by many of the transgender, Black, Islamic feminist, because just essentializing all women experiences, which is like universal in nature, is generally done by the white feminists. So yeah, Now, the care perspective, for example, draws most explicitly on the work of Carol Gilligan, who claims that women's experience of interconnection shapes their moral domain and gives rise to a different moral voice. In criticizing Kohlberg's research into moral development on the ground that it privileged an ethics of justice over ethics of caring, Gilligan offers feminists a framework within which they might critique individualism and universalism of liberal political institutions. Thus, the feminist defenders of an ethic of care claim there to be a distinctive woman's morality characterized by caring and nurturance. This distinctive form of ethics is variously argued to be derived from being female, being a mother, or being a potential mother, from women's cultural role and exclusion from marketplace. Therefore, what is being argued is a differentiated citizenship. So women are different. Now, in the 17th century, for example, Mary Wollstonecraft talked about the fact that women morality is slightly different, and that has to be taken care of. And women need to be educated, and yeah, so it denies women the capacity of improvement of mind. So the morality which has been described in the 17th century, it denies women the improvement of mind, and and the the claim that women's morality is related to chastity is was considered important that time, but is going to be considered to be extremely problematic in the current situation in which we are in the present year. For example, the new year which we are celebrating, chastity for women is going to be considered to be extremely problematic. And Wollstonecraft talked about moral rights of women as equal to that of men. But still, a lot had to be done during that time, because women were considered to be virtuous. So, virtue is something, I guess, is important for both men and women. It's not just something which is important just for women. It's equally. And so the 19th century, you have some utopian and socialist movements in Europe that influenced women's rights activists in America and would later influence British thinkers, including J.S. Mill, lauded feminine virtues and women's importance, but did so in a way that reinforced women as superior because of innate qualities of gentleness, love, spirituality, and sentimentality. So, because currently we have, like all of us are studying religion, all of us are studying spirituality. For example, other day I was seeing Cynthia like reading Osho, so like all of us are into that. So men are equally interested in that particular aspect. So why should it be attributed just to women? It's not something which is attributed just to women. It's equally important because men are equally now into, because it's too much of stress in the world, depression and stress, anxiety. These problems are too much there in the world. So people are being drawn to spirituality, not just religion, but spirituality, which is across the world. People are like being Taoist, Confucianist, Advaita theorist, the Krishna cult, etc., etc., Christianity, Islam. So people are finding refuge there. So just saying that women are only spiritual is extremely problematic for men as well. So I guess the binaries which have been set up for men and women are problematic, and they have to be taken care of in a way that both men and women can benefit from each other's qualities. They kind of they gain experience from each other, and a better world can be established, and a new system comes by where you have these principles as extremely important. And yeah, so early 20th century proto-feminist, like the proto-feminists were the precursors to the feminist movement, which in the second wave feminism came in. Now, yeah, just a minute. Yeah. However, fact remains that the work of Siksu, Irigaray, and Kristiva came to be criticized for its essentialist, Eurocentric, and idealistic tendencies. And therefore, what is being witnessed now is the emergence of second-generation sexual difference theorists, exemplified in the work of Rosie Braidotti, Drunkyla Cornell, and Elizabeth Gross. As a result, they seek to legitimize sexual difference as foundational category of feminist thought, while simultaneously emptying it of normative or essentialist content. Rosie Braidotti, for example, asked the primary question that is it possible to think of other not as other than but as positively other entity? The goal of feminism is thus not to deny difference, but to recover feminine within sexual difference, to generate an autonomous female imagery beyond existing stereotypes of women. The recent work of Cornell offers a detailed elucidation of sexual difference theory, which has been described as a formal theory of sexual difference. It affirms the importance of feminine while refusing to give it a substantive content. Feminism is that which resists definition, which embodies multiplicity. So, what the current theories can borrow from feminism is um, um, multiplicity, and how otherness can be changed from the whole issue of universalism to otherness being included into universalism. So we can also use Kantian principles, social contractualist, but if only women's otherness and multiplicity of like the people around, like for example, transgenders, etc., to be included in the veil of ignorance. So till the time that doesn't happen, the fact that women are the other is an established fact in the current academia. So post-colonialist and the post-structuralist and the postmodernist like Derrida, for example, would go against this particular principle, and in his grammar of sorry, I'm just forgetting the name. Yeah. So yeah. So they talk about they have the origin of the 70s saw a lot of upheaval in the academia, in the French academics, and people like Gayatri Chakrabarti Spivak spoke about postmodernism, etc., and they were like post-colonial theories came up during that particular time, and otherness was described that there is no universalistic system as Kant has described, but there is differences for example, right now, the Russia and Ukraine war, what the Russians are saying right now, their philosophers are saying, the ones who are like influencing Putin's policies, what they are saying is that we are in a world which is multipolar. It is not something which is being described from America or Europe. China has a different way of looking at things, and we have a different way of looking at things, and you can't impose your views on us. So I guess that particular thought is coming to fore with the multipolarity in international relations. So hereby I'm linking philosophy to international relations. So women, for example, in war, they suffer the most. So ethics of care, for example, has to come up in the circles of the diplomat arena, where it is understood that children and women are the ones who suffer the most. But ethics of care is something which has to be borrowed from feminism to the elite circles, where these particular issues have to be discussed, understood, and so wars have to be minimalized if you have to see the world progress. So I guess any sensible person would say that having a war between countries, for example, China and Taiwan, so till the time these kind of structures do not collapse, we will see more wars. And it's like we are at the branch of nuclear wars. So, here we are talking about climate care, etc. And, you are like, you are about to unleash nuclear war. So how does that? So ethics of care, you can borrow from there and have the um, best possible solution to world wars. And so, I guess, the borrowing of ethics of care from um, ethics of feminist from the feminist view of ethics has to be borrowed worldwide, and it has to be studied because it's less studied, and only male philosophers are the ones who are read more than the feminists, and the French feminists especially. I mean, I'm like, I'm really their fans. I love reading them. So I guess we need to study them more, and till the time we don't do that, we are on the path that misses onto a lot, something which is good. And I personally do not have any problems considering the fact that you can borrow, always borrow, knowledge can be borrowed. And I don't believe in the fact that they're only essentialist. I feel that the knowledge, the bureau of knowledge can be borrowed. It from, for example, I mean, the scheduled caste Dalits. I mean, I hope you know that Dalits are the ones in India who are at the lowest rung of Varna system. And the Varna system is the Brahmins at the top, Kshatriyas second, third Vaishyas, and the fourth the Shudras. And the work is the menial works. So I guess there are a lot of Dalit feminists in India who would definitely understand the perspective which has been given by French feminists, and they can enlarge their knowledge about the fact that um, it is not essentialism to borrow knowledge from American feminists, for example, like Susan Moller Oken, and because she included women in the social contractualist. She was a contractualist, and she included women in the veil of ignorance, and she critiqued Rawls for this particular aspect. And so she expanded the liberal vision of contractualism. So yeah, so I guess as far as the world right now is concerned, we do need ethics of care. But the fact is, it should become a universal principle. And universal principle, what I'm trying to say is, which means that women can influence policy making. And we can have androgynous systems like Butler and Alison Jagger have said, and we can have universalistic systems where men and women together can have androgyny, where both can share values, and somebody can have more, a woman can be more, for example, more oriented towards violence. So why should we just blame men for that? For example, a man can be more peaceful. So you can't just say that women are doing, women are, so that's kind of essentializing women. Women are just care for care. It's not essential at all. So I guess the ethics of care, for example, is something which is needed for both. And a simple androgynous system needs to be evolved, which is universalistic, non-essentialistic, which includes divergent views. And so till the time that doesn't happen, we need to get these things into policy areas through our lecture series, etc., so that the views need to reach till the top level, be it Russia, be it American, be it Indian, be it any level, for example. And till the time that doesn't happen, we have to uh, work in academia to get our works heard, voices heard. And till that time, I guess I'll stop at this.
Okay, now we'll open the floor for questions. Does anybody have a question or comment that they would like to contribute? Beautiful, thank you, Tamanna. We have a question in the chat. I will ask, does the person that asked the question want to speak, or shall I just read it? Right, she did mention the disconnection between logic and emotion. Does she offer any remedies to reconnect these two polar opposites? Is she suggesting that policymakers make androgynous roles more explicit?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. I agree to that. And I believe that there are certain principles which are beyond genders. And these principles, these virtues, these moralities need to be included in our social lives and political and the philosophical lives as such. And you can't just do away with them, because the principles of reason, for example, are something which have been attributed to men. So if there were if there was a reason, for example, women were not educated, and so reason was something which was like, it was only 17th or 18th century that there were many male philosophers. For example, in India, for example, we have many of them who spoke about the fact that sati is a problem, or women, or like child marriage is a problem. So it was men who started that particular movement, and then they helped many women to move forward. Now this particular aspect is important, because till the time men and women do not come together to form us, we need to come together to form virtues which both of us can share. And these virtues then need to be followed by the policy makers, you know and we need to, all of us, the philosophical sections of the world, we need to come together, and the best possible policies need to be brought forward, so that we don't have wars, etc. And women, for example, are not exploited. There are no rapes, for example. And these kind of things have to be understood, because violence begets violence. So and the present world has enough of violence, so ethics of care is going to help in that particular aspect.
Tamanna, that was fantastic. I am so grateful to you. I love you so much. You're just such a beautiful human being, and I agree with everything you say. So I don't have any
Thank you
questions.
so much. Thank you so much. Lovely questions and lovely host. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you. That was amazing. I'm just so grateful that you took the time with us this evening, and